Welcome back to Hero Machines, where we bring you incredible demonstrations of forestry power, skill, and old-fashioned ingenuity. Today, we'll take a journey deep into the woods and into the yard, watching how massive trees are harvested, cut, and split into usable firewood. It's a story of strength, both human and mechanical, and it reminds us of how important wood has been for generations, not just as fuel, but as part of daily life. Grab a comfortable seat, because what you're about to see will show you some of the most effective and fascinating ways to handle trees, from the forest floor to the firewood pile. Out in the forest, felling a tree is far more than simply making it fall to the ground. It's a practice that demands control, precision, and, above all, safety. Each tree stands tall with its own weight, balance, and lean, and the person or machine cutting it must understand how all of those forces will act the moment the saw makes its bite. Today's large harvesters are built with this in mind. Their strong arms grip the trunk tightly, holding it steady so there is no room for guesswork. A powerful saw slices through the wood in just a matter of seconds, but notice, this isn't reckless speed. The machine guides the tree gently, making sure it falls exactly where the operator intends. A safe fall direction protects the operator, nearby workers, and even the surrounding trees that may be left standing. For many older generations, this looks almost unreal. Some of you may remember standing in the woods with only an axe or a chainsaw, carefully making a notch cut, then a back cut, watching the tree shift and creak before finally tipping. That was hard, physical work, dangerous too if the tree twisted or split unexpectedly. The harvesters of today may seem futuristic, but the same basic principles apply. Cut cleanly, guide the fall, and always respect the balance of the tree. Once the tree is on the ground, the real efficiency begins. The harvester head strips away branches with swift movements, leaving behind a clean, straight trunk. Then, like a skilled carpenter measuring lumber, the machine sizes the log according to preset lengths. This ensures the timber is ready for transport and milling with little to no waste. Watch how the cutting head rotates and adjusts as if it were a craftsman's tool, like a sharp chisel working along the grain. The operator, sitting safely inside the cab, has complete control over the process, making dozens of precise cuts without ever needing to step into harm's way. The lesson here is timeless. Whether you're holding a handsaw, a chainsaw, or operating a high-powered harvester, the foundation of good forestry is the same: efficiency, planning, and respect for the wood. Every cut should be thought through. Every fall should be predicted. And safety should always come first. That's what separates a careful woodsman from a careless one.
Rồi.
Now, let's move from the forest to the yard, where logs become firewood. Splitting wood has always been a test of endurance, but technology has turned it into a smooth and steady process. Automatic splitters take round logs and drive them through sharp wedges that break them into even pieces, perfect for stacking and drying. Here's the interesting part. By using consistent pressure, machines reduce the risk of logs twisting or bursting unpredictably. Many older folks remember standing over a chopping block with an axe, aiming for the grain. The same rule applies here. Always follow the grain of the wood. Machines may do the heavy lifting, but the principle of splitting wood with the wood, instead of against it, is something every firewood cutter knows. What's remarkable is how these tools allow one person to prepare a winter's worth of wood in a fraction of the time, and with far less strain on the body. When wood is tough, you need raw power. Gasoline-powered splitters pack an impressive punch, driving with enough force to tear through the densest hardwoods. What you're seeing here is more than just horsepower. It's about durability and reliability. For those who've spent decades heating homes with firewood, you'll recognize the value of a good tool that can last season after season. These splitters are built to handle knotty rounds, frozen logs, or oversized pieces that would be nearly impossible with a hand tool. One tip worth remembering: always keep your wood splitter on level ground, and always place the log flat against the wedge. This ensures not just safety, but also cleaner, faster splits. And just like with any machine, routine maintenance, checking the engine oil, keeping the wedge sharp, and cleaning off debris will keep it running strong for years. Finally, we see a specialized wedge system at work. Instead of splitting wood into halves, these box-shaped wedges break a log into multiple pieces in one motion. This design saves time and creates uniform firewood that's easier to handle and easier to stack. This method is especially useful for large hardwoods like oak, which can be stubborn and heavy. By letting the wedge do the work, the operator can move through pile after pile with efficiency. For anyone who has stacked cords of firewood by hand, you know how valuable it is when each piece is a consistent size. It makes the wood dry faster, burn more evenly, and fit neatly into your stove or fireplace. Think of it as the difference between chopping vegetables with a dull knife versus a sharp one. With the right edge, everything becomes smoother, faster, and cleaner. From towering trees in the forest to neatly split logs ready for the hearth, wood continues to connect us to traditions of hard work, craftsmanship, and self-reliance. Machines may look different today, but the values behind them haven't changed. Here on Hero Machines, we celebrate that blend of old wisdom and modern ingenuity. If you enjoyed this journey, stay with us for more powerful stories of machines, men, and the timeless work of the forest.